Alrighty, well, hello, sinners. How are ya? On today's installment of the Letterboard of Truth, our quote of the day is better late than alpha. Remember when I said I'd make a part 2 to this reaction in a timely manner? Yeah, I'm a dirty f***ing liar, apparently. But finally, on this very day, we'll be reacting to the second half of the Alphas versus Betas Middle Ground episode from Jubilee. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll make sure to leave a link down below, although I must mention that it got age restricted for some reason, even though I think it's on par with the content I normally make. So if you're signed out of YouTube or you're under 18, that's probably why you don't see it. YouTube doesn't want to see lesbian girl bosses succeed, I guess. Surprisingly, the first half of this episode, at least, was a very productive conversation. Even though I definitely disagreed with some of the points made, I think most of the guys featured articulated themselves very well. Hopefully, they keep the same energy in the second half of this episode. The 3 topics we'll be covering today are: women should not be in positions of power, a man can just be friends with an attractive woman, and a man should not cry in front of his kids. I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot to say about all 3 of these subjects, so without any further ado, let's watch.
Women should not be in position of power.
So obviously, especially as a woman, I disagree with this. I think if we're deciding on who should be in positions of power, it shouldn't be based on gender. It should be based on who's qualified for that position. But unfortunately, there are still men to this day who think that women shouldn't be in power because we're too emotional. We can't handle our feelings and emotions. I have a feeling all of the alphas are going to step up and none of the betas will, so let's see if I'm right. Wow. I'm surprised that only one of them stepped up. And of course it's Mr. Locario. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. But he's wearing a Submissive Women Are Sexy shirt. So who's surprised here? I'm certainly not. If you remember this dude from part 1, this is very on brand for him.
A woman can be in a position of power only by herself, but not in relation to being in a relationship with a man. Because when she's in a relationship with a man, the man has to be the leader. The man has to be the one that's guiding the situation, directing the situation. If it's in any other situation by herself with work, you know, with her friends or whatever, she can do whatever she wants to do.
I'm confused because I thought that's just what the prompt meant, like relating to positions of power in work. I guess that's how he interpreted it, but I'm going to disagree with him because I believe romantic relationships should be a partnership as opposed to a dictatorship where one has to follow the other. Unless if that's like a dynamic that you want or a dynamic that you're into, otherwise that's cool, that works for you. But saying that this is a type of relationship that every single couple should follow is just ignorant, in my opinion. Like I said in part 1, these guys are projecting their preferences onto everyone else. It's fine to like what you like. It's fine to like submissive women and want to be dominant in the relationship, but that's not what everyone strives for, and that's okay. Unless if you're talking to Mr. Locario, and I don't think he's okay with that.
There was a lot of like has to, have to's, but like not really a reason behind it. Like, can I ask, like, what's your reason behind like why a man has to be in the power, like in power? Why can't a woman be in power?
Power is such a weird word. I would say more like the leadership role. A man has to lead a woman. He has to guide a woman, because what happens is that when it's the opposite, when a woman is leading that man, she usually loses respect for him.
See, Eddie asked why Mr. Locario is using has to and have to in order to explain his position, yet this guy is still using has to's and have to's to explain his position without actually explaining his position. Already he's contradicting himself. And I don't agree with the sentiment that the woman being the dominant one in the relationship means that she loses respect for her partner. If anything, this dude is kind of telling on himself. If a man is supposed to lead a woman in a relationship, does that mean the man loses respect for her?
When she's in a relationship with a man who is under her, who's submissive to her in a lot of different situations, then she starts to lose respect for him because she's looking for a man to lead and guide her.
How do you know that though? Have you spoken to every single woman on the planet? No. I mean, let's be honest, most women would probably avoid him because he has very weird ideology. But anyway, yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna reiterate this point again and again. Your personal preferences don't apply to everyone. And that's not just directed at him, that is for everyone.
If you notice, they have sex with the bad boys, but then the nice guys get tossed to the side. You see what Like, why is that?
Not the nice guy argument in 2023. Holy... Oh, God, that's so cringe. His understanding of relationships is so middle school. And I feel like that's insulting to kids in middle school. It's kind of giving incel a little bit like, oh, this girl doesn't like me because I'm such a nice guy. If only I were a bad boy. Oh, I hate being so nice. Why don't nice guys ever get the girl? I think in general, most people want to date someone or to marry someone who is kind and respectful towards them. That's the bare minimum for a relationship. Because if you're so nice, yet you still can't find a partner, maybe there's something else going on.
Some women want a guy like you because they don't want to do anything, right? They don't want to take that position. I'm around a lot of women who don't want that. They're in positions of power, not just in work, career, at home. I find women much more pleasant to do business with.
Feminist king. Oh my God, Kevin? I mean, my favorite from part 1 was Derek, the other king with the fringes here, and I believe his name is Chris, the guy with the red hat. Kevin's starting to win me over. Maybe instead of saying Kenergy, we should start saying Kevenergy to honor my bestie Kevin here.
I think when you get into your part, your end of the pond, it can get a little bit mucky, you know what I mean? And I don't really subscribe to that as well.
I heard you say you were from New York. I lived in Manhattan for 30 years as a fashion designer in the heart of Manhattan.
I could tell he works in fashion. His style is just impeccable. Derek just seems like such a cool dude. I really want to sit down and pick his brain for a while.
I was the one bringing the money home. I was the one doing that. After my son, my youngest, went back to school, she went back to work. I always wanted to have my own collection. She was like, you should do that now. So guess what? She had the job. She paid the bills while I was building my company. So I could be strong in our relationship and be a man in our relationship, but I also got to know what it means to have a partner next to me and not someone that I have to lead.
That's a great point he made. In my opinion, this is exactly what a relationship should be. A partnership where you're both working together equally to make the relationship work and to keep each other happy. We stand an emotionally mature king.
If you are more excessively emotional and unstable than your wife, I do believe that's going to lead to issues in the relationship.
But we have to define what emotionally unstable means. At least among the women I know who like men and date men regularly, they all like guys who are emotionally open with them and are in touch with their inner selves. So I can only speak anecdotally from my experience. It's all subjective at the end of the day.
Man's job is to be the mountain that a woman's emotional waves crash into. Like, straight up.
That's like a quote you'd find under hashtag alpha male on Instagram. I'm the mountain, she's the waves, and she's gonna crash into me. Facts.
Women are always going to be more emotional than men.
There are plenty of women who are also very stoic and stable like men are supposed to be. And vice versa, there are plenty of men who are more sensitive and more open about their emotions. Again, they're just making generalizations of all 7+ billion people on Earth. Ridiculous.
Men should be the stable ones. Men don't need to be crying in front of women. And ideally, they're not splitting chores. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I think that if a woman cannot look up to you in some way, then she cannot respect you. And if she cannot respect you, she cannot love you.
See, guys like him say that women are the more unstable ones, yet I'm sure if his wife asked him to do the dishes one night, he would break down crying. If anything, I would think that not contributing to the household would put more of a strain on the relationship, as opposed to you crying in front of her or, you know, wiping down the damn counter. Like, what are you, a toddler? You still need mommy to clean up after you?
I totally just
Yeah.
totally just
Yeah, and the only reason I didn't come sit down is because I have some really, really good women in leadership roles in my businesses, and they are absolute leaders. Now, they might lead under me, but I think they stand alone as leaders, and I respect them enough that I would never come sit down over that particular statement.
I respect them somewhat for not having the typical alpha male take where women shouldn't have power, period, regardless if it's the workplace or home life, because people like Elliot Hulse, who's another alpha bro on the internet, would disagree with all of this.
Strong men don't eat.
So they are kind of progressive in that sense, but me praising them for that take is like me congratulating a fish for swimming. That's the bare minimum.
But in the relationship, yes, sir, I do agree that a man should be the leader, he should be the breadwinner, and he should be the one solving all the problems out in the world and emotionally at home.
He makes being a man sound so exhausting. Like, just relax for a second. Holy shit, not everything has to be a chase for power or authority or leadership. Like, you could just exist. That is perfectly fine.
You two say for work, it's fine. But when it comes to our relationship, I got to be the one to wear the pants. And okay, let's not say pants. We'll use the person's words. I got to be the mountain that her emotions crash into.
That's so fucking cheesy. I still cannot get over that.
I tell you guys, we can be very emotional too. And I know there's a lot of guys in my 55 years that are way emotional than some of these women out here now that are taking charge.
He's 55? He looks fantastic. Aging is fine, by the way. I just think he looks very good. I thought he was in his early to mid 40s.
Isn't it weird that nowadays they're talking about all these single, sexless men and all these guys having issues? Why do you think that is?
They're becoming more emotional than ever.
I'm somewhat familiar with the discourse surrounding why more men than ever are single nowadays. I try to avoid it because it gets toxic very fast. Now, this is just my opinion, but ultimately, the reason why this is happening is because we live in a society where women now know that they don't need a man to survive, that pursuing a relationship is a want, not a need. But guys like them are stuck in the past, and they're like, women need to get married to a nice Christian man, settle down, and have 10,000 children, when overall most people are growing out of that mindset. But I also think it's a very complex issue that I can't possibly do justice in today's video. If you'd like to see me dive into that discourse a little further, please let me know.
I am not a sexless single guy.
We know that, Kevin. You're a king.
My girlfriend is an emotional rock for me.
Aww.
I think that's the problem also with a lot of toxicity that goes on, because some men, a lot of men have emotions, you don't know how to express it, and then it turns into this opposite toxicity. How do I know this? I used to be one of them.
Me too.
He nailed it. He nailed it. I think it's important for anyone of any gender to learn how to regulate their emotions, but also be in touch with them in a healthy way.
A man can just be friends with an attractive woman.
Oh no, I feel like this is gonna be messy. I think most of the guys on the alpha side are gonna disagree at least, but I guess we'll see. Maybe I'm making judgments far too quickly.
Technicalities, bro.
Okay, Kian. See, I expected it to be Kevin, but it was actually Kian. I'm kind of surprised.
If we're speaking from personal experience, I've met many attractive women. That's not the only thing that, I'm looking for. It's also about personality. So she can be a 10, but if it's like the personality is just, someone who doesn't challenge me on a spiritual level, emotional level, someone who also is like emotionally unavailable, then it doesn't really matter.
I would agree. Respect. Also, I think I called him Chris before. His name is Anthony, so I'm sorry for misremembering your name. See, you can find someone attractive and not be attracted to them. I think a lot of people get the two conflated. It's totally natural to find people attractive. That's just life. That's just being a human. It's okay if you admire someone's beauty, but like Anthony said, there's so much more to a person than that. There's the spiritual aspect, emotional, mental aspect.
I can acknowledge if certain female friends of mine are attractive, but doesn't mean I'm sexually attracted to them.
He gets it. He gets it. Also, I just realized he's wearing platform Crocs. That's an alpha move. Yeah, I'll admit, I have a lot of beautiful friends in my life who are beautiful both inside and out. That doesn't mean I'm attracted to them. You don't have to or pursue every attractive person you see.
Is it natural to not be attracted to a very attractive woman to you? I don't think so. With a lot of intention and your priorities are elsewhere and you're very intentional with how you're showing up in that space, I think you can do it. And I think that was the question, if it can be done, not if it's natural or not.
That makes sense. I think this also comes from a place of certain men not viewing women as complex human beings. It's like they only view women as a trophy to win or as a vessel to carry their children, as opposed to someone who is also a person who has interests, hobbies, dreams, aspirations, just like they do. It's all rooted in misogyny at the end of the day, but who's surprised? But before I make even more bold assumptions, let's see what the disagreeers have to say.
If I'm attracted to you, honestly, I'm trying to smash. You understand? We gotta have sex.
We gotta have sex? So any woman you find attractive, you have to have sex with her. Something I notice with men like him, or just people in general, is that they're not nice to people they aren't attracted to. And I think that says a lot about you as a person. I'm not saying you have to talk to every single person, whether they're attractive or not, but deciding to pursue a friendship with someone based on whether you're attracted to them or not, or even just interacting with them in general, again, seems so superficial to me. This is also another example of how men like him objectify women.
I don't believe in giving women non-sexual attention unless we're in a relationship.
I'm sorry? So say he goes to the grocery store and gets in the line of someone who happens to be a female cashier. Is he We're not married. Go get the male worker over there. Like, this is so fucking weird and juvenile to me. I'm sorry. I just can't believe a man like him actually exists.
Non-sexual attention from a man towards a woman is very valuable. So I'm not just giving you that just to be friends.
He's basically saying that your worth is based on physical attraction. Talking to a woman you're not attracted to isn't gonna kill you. You'll be fine, I promise. That little alpha brain of yours is gonna be a-okay afterwards. Like, I think it's natural if one person in the friendship develops feelings for the other. There's a reason why friends to lovers is such a popular trope in books and movies. But only entering a friendship because you want to fuck the other person seems kind of manipulative to me. Like, you're giving this other person false expectations for the relationship. It's a little odd, if you ask me.
I think that men and women can be friends. It's just not because the man wants to. Most often, it's the man that's trying to sleep with the woman.
Right.
And he's trying to hang around long enough for her to slip up and make that happen.
Oh, it seems like one of the alpha dudes is telling on himself again. To me, this just proves again how a lot of guys like him objectify women. They don't see them as people. They only see them as things to gain, as trophies to collect on their metaphorical trophy shelf.
Most of the time, you're not going to see a man be friends with a very overweight woman. You're not going to see a man be friends with a very unattractive woman unless there's some kind of financial reward there. So by and largely, I don't buy guy friends.
I do fully believe that a lot of guys think like this. I just don't agree with it because it's objectifying. Saying that women's worth inherently relies on their attractiveness. I feel like their takes are worse this time around. Like, for the most part, they were all very rational at the beginning, but now their emotional immaturity is showing through.
Yes, a person can be an attractive person and you not find that person attractive and you be friends.
You have friendship and attraction.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
Part
you
of a
can't do that.
relationship is friendship and getting along. And then on top of it, you find that person attractive.
No way.
I just think it's a very rare thing. I don't think, I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist, but to me, just again, in my experience in life and just knowing my friends and people, I don't know one that has worked out that.
I know Derek is basing it on his life experience, and I can't say that's invalid. But at the same time, his life experiences don't apply to everyone. Like, sure, it might be common for a lot of guys to think like this, but that doesn't mean it's the case for every single guy.
Again, that's your personal experience, though. Whereas the question is, like, can a man, any man, be in a regular friendship with a woman?
Like a real friendship, like they're actually really friends.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Why do they find it so crazy that you can like and appreciate a woman for qualities that aren't related to her physical appearance? Like, could that friendship form into something deeper later? Sure, but I think everyone has the ability to be friends with anyone. And that's whether you find them attractive or not. Okay, so this is the final prompt. Thank God. The last 3 prompts of this video are much shorter than the first 3 prompts, yet I don't know why this has been more emotionally taxing on me. That sounds dramatic. I think their opinions are more controversial this time around.
A man should not cry in front of his kids.
I mean, if you've watched me long enough, you know I disagree with this prompt. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 walked up to the chairs.
It's not going to be popular to say this, but ideally, you're not going to cry in front of your kids. They cry to you. Is it fair? No. Is life fair? No.
Obviously, yeah, life isn't fair. And I get that you would want to teach your children to expect that life won't be fair going forward. But as a parent who is supposed to love and nurture their children, wouldn't you want to make their home environment as fair and as safe as possible and try to protect them from the unfair world around them and try to create that safe space for them? Because I think that by showing emotions in front of your children, it makes it easier for them to do the same. It humanizes you, that you're not just this big authority figure who tells them when to go to bed and when to take out the trash, when to wake up for school, things like that. Like, you're also a human that feels emotions and connections. And by being open about your own emotions, you're setting a good example for your child that it's okay to say how you feel.
I want to feel like I was a hero to them in every way. And I don't think a man that cries in front of his family is not the hero. But ideally, I'm not going to be doing it.
I mean, I'll give him credit for saying that crying in front of your children doesn't make you a hero, that it's just his personal definition. I just don't agree with it. And that's fine. He has the right to carry himself in whatever way he deems comfortable and natural to him. I'm not saying he needs to change every single facet about him, but I think maybe he should re-examine why his masculinity and his manlyhood is more important than being emotionally vulnerable with his hypothetical children.
You know, it's weird. I've never actually seen my dad cry till this day.
I actually haven't either. Have you seen your dad cry?
Kids is looking to their father for that strength. And so if they're seeing their dad cry, I feel like that creates fear in the situation the kid has with their father.
This is just my personal belief, but I feel like expressing your emotions is a sign of strength because it shows that you're willing to confront your demons and to confront your negative emotions. Whereas I think avoiding your emotions shows a sign of weakness. Not that you're a weak person overall, but in the moment, you're showing weakness, if that makes sense. I think we talked about men's mental health in part 1 of this video and at least a couple times on my channel, but if you're wondering why the suicide rate is so high in middle-aged men, this is why. We've created a culture where men feel ashamed and emasculated if they ask for help from the people around them. So they have to live in this lonely, isolated existence where they can't let anyone in and they have to be the strong one all the time. And I can't imagine that's good for anyone, no matter your gender. But for some reason, we've normalized this way of living for men.
If you're crying in front of your kids, it's the same thing as crying in front of your girl. It's a bad representation of what you're supposed to be in that situation for them.
I don't know, I just think men deserve to feel nurtured too and feel like they're allowed to be vulnerable and at ease. And when I said being a man sounds so exhausting, I mean that in so many different ways, not just relationships, but like emotionally, career-wise, in general. Like, we put so much pressure on men, which in turn leads them to putting pressure on themselves and the other men around them. Like, it doesn't have to be this serious. I know that's such like a reductive way of putting it, but it's true.
My middle daughter, who I'm going to talk about, is 26 years old. For some reason, out of all 3 of my children, that middle girl, from the time she turned 13 to 17, 18, we just butted heads, right? And the relationship wasn't going to where it should be going. And I want to be close to my kids. We sat down, she was about 20, maybe 19, 20 years old. We had a heart-to-heart about our feelings and how we really felt about each other, and I cried. But I'm going to tell you, for that enriching moment, and that's again just coming with years, of having those tears with her and talking about how important it was that our relationship work, and then hearing her come back and saying she felt the same way and breaking through that, I'm the father, I'm going to be the strong one, made her break down and both of us be closer than we ever have been.
That's really beautiful. I'm so glad that Derek got to have that moment with his daughter. And I think that's a great example that he's setting. Like I said earlier, I think kids would be more comfortable expressing themselves if parents showed the human side of them. Because at the end of the day, parents are humans too. I think most kids do this, but when I was little, I saw my parents as these larger than life beings that could do no wrong. But as I've grown older, I've realized that they're human too. And I wonder if I saw them in that light a lot earlier, if things would have been different. And while, yes, Derek's story is anecdotal, this is still an example of how being emotionally vulnerable with your children, especially as a man, can improve your relationship with them and do wonders for your connection with them.
Do you think that if you could have set her down earlier than the age that you did and just had a vulnerable conversation, that maybe it could have happened? Like, it wouldn't have had to build all the way up to tears?
No, because what was going on, from my understanding of our relationship, is that, you know, young people, I'm very independent, my children are very independent. They don't want to be controlled in a certain way. And as a father, you still have to keep that control. She was only seeing that side. So she was only seeing this domineering person trying to squish what she thought that she wanted to be or who she wanted to be. And that wasn't it. I was just trying to play the father role. I saw my dad do it. Never a tear. He's that man, you know, and I was raised by that man, and I took that on. I remember sitting my son down and telling him, boys don't cry. And I still to this day regret that, because I do not think that's the way we're supposed to live our lives. And I think that's why you go back to the statistic of how a lot of men are depressed. We're supposed to have emotions. We're human.
Yup. Props to Derek for realizing his mistake and going back to rectify that in some way. This is why men have to start caring about their mental health. Like I said in part 1 of this video, whenever women's mental health comes up, some incel red pill dude has to counteract with, oh, what about men's mental health? How about men start caring about their mental health instead of expecting women to carry the burden of that? Like, don't get me wrong, I care about men's mental health. I think everyone, regardless of gender or whoever you are, deserves to feel at peace, comfortable, and safe. But I think as a society, we need to start normalizing introspection and reflection and expressing your emotions to men so that they can process their feelings in a healthy way. Again, I sound like a broken record, but we're not going to be able to fix this rising depression among men if we don't deal with the root of the problem.
My dad was able to, and still is able to, at funerals, be able to show emotion. During movies, when he feels the emotion, be able to show up and do that. And I even think, like, when I first went off to college, you know, he's tearing up too.
And I think that's great. I'm glad Kian had a positive male influence in his life.
This is a field I specialize in. I'm a program manager for a nonprofit that focuses on mental health.
Okay, mental health king.
It goes back to making sure we understand the difference between regulating your emotions and suppressing them. I think that's why I said earlier, like, to be an alpha, you have to be balanced. You guys can be emotional as well. You guys can be vulnerable. It doesn't make you less than. Just like a woman being more assertive doesn't make her less than a woman. If you feel like you don't want to promote being emotional in front of your kids, you know, I've asked the question, does that kind of fall into toxic masculinity for your son?
I think Anthony has a very healthy mindset when it comes to processing trauma. And that's expected because he specializes in the field of mental health, like he said. I just wish that more men sought out that mental health treatment so they can learn how to regulate their emotions.
I think being vulnerable as a man is one of the strongest things a man can actually do.
Respect. Yeah, I would agree.
It's just that I don't think that crying, particularly sobbing, is going to be very healthy as the leader and the person that they're supposed to come to for that safety and that care.
If you're crying erratically and uncontrollably, something deeper is going on, but showing actual physical emotion, like the physical act of crying, is fine once in a while. Also, like I said, broken record, hello, humanizing yourself for your children is one of the best things you could do for them, in my opinion. There are many ways you could pursue that, but I think crying is a great way to do that.
People just express their sadness in different ways.
You can be, but I heard what you guys were saying earlier, and I agree with that. It's like, you know, you don't want to be a crybaby, but it's like, for instance, if I'm at a funeral and this person meant something, tell me, no, can't do that. Or I see something on television or a movie that moves me, like, you can't do that. It's like kind of like a very weird thing, and I think you guys touched upon that.
Yeah, like, I think as long as you're not negatively affecting yourself or the people around you, you shouldn't really tell someone when or when not to cry. Let's just promote more emotional vulnerability.
There's just like a weird stigma behind like crying, because it seems like we keep associating crying with weakness.
How would you basically explain to your kids how they feel like they should let out their sadness?
I think probably the best thing I can do is like explain to you what my goal as a father is to explain them the truth of the world. Truly, hey, this is the truth of the world. This is how the world is. Here's some competencies and things you can do to set yourself up, because my ultimate goal for my children is to have choice. So I can have a son, he could be gay, he could cry, he could be straight, he could cry. Like, I could have daughters that were dominant masculine. I don't care as long as they have choice. I personally, my preference and what I aspire to be and what I want to be and what I get to be is that strong man for my family.
You know, I think it's great that he wants to be that rock for his family, or that mountain that the waves crash in, or whatever the hell he said. But like Eddie also said, I don't get why we associate crying with weakness. And there's also different levels to crying. Like I also said, oh my God, take a shot for every time I repeat myself in this video. I don't know, my personal philosophy is that crying about it now keeps you from sobbing about it later. Deal with the emotions now instead of letting it build up.
We all kind of believe that like we have to be a hero for our kids, right? Especially when they're super young. And honestly, I agree. You need to be a role model for your kids, you know, and you need to be a safe space, which I completely agree with. But things happen as they grow up, you know what I mean? Especially when they go towards their teen years, when they're actually like feeling a lot of different things and feeling the pressure of society and everything that's collapsing around them. Sometimes they don't just need like a hero, they need a father to like commune with, to like actually talk with.
Yes.
I agree. I think that was a great way to end the video, because nobody's perfect. We can't expect someone like a father to be strong 100% of the time, because he's human. Life is very unpredictable, and that unpredictability is going to make us feel certain ways at certain times. But that is Alphas versus Betas from Jubilee. I really enjoyed listening to these guys' conversation, even though I highly disagreed with a couple of them in particular. I appreciate them for being open about their feelings and sharing their perspectives in a very healthy and civil manner. I think it's cool when people of opposing viewpoints can sit down and discuss their matters in a respectful way. And I think they really accomplished that. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought of this middle ground episode. So please feel free to leave any and all your thoughts in the comments, and be civil as always. If there are any other Jubilee videos that you would like me to react to in the future, please let me know down below. And in general, if you'd like to see me talk about anything in particular, I have a Google form linked in the description where you could submit your video ideas. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a tiny thumbs up and subscribe down below. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye!